You are listening to the Red Roots podcast.
Hey everybody, I hope you are well. It's been a long time since I made a podcast, and there's a reason for that. My mic. Let me just start everything off by saying this: we have a lot to talk about today, but just kind of my disclaimer for the audio, if it's not good or whatever. My microphone. If you're watching this, you see it up on the top shelf there. The console that we have to plug it into. It doesn't work anymore. It's broken, and so I can't use that microphone, which is a big reason why I haven't been doing a lot of different recording stuff and like that. And so I apologize because I like to do this for some people. Not a lot of people listen, but some people definitely listen and watch. And these more in-depth updates and a little bit, you just get to get into way more detail. But yeah, I apologize for the audio. You're probably going to hear cars and airplanes and dogs. I don't know what else you're going to hear. People talking, maybe. I'm right by the window. But hopefully you can hear me, and the message is what's important that we're talking about here today. So yeah, we'll just get right into it because I do have a lot that I want to share with you today. So yeah, we'll get right into it. As you may or may not have heard, this may be news to you. I don't know. You may not have heard this already or seen the announcement or the email or whatever. But Red Roots has taken on a clinic here in Trinidad, Bolivia, and Trinidad. That's our northern base, where we replanted the church there, and we started a bunch of community projects and things like that. And so we've taken on a clinic. Where to begin? This wasn't something that we had planned a long time ago. This was not something that we were like, man, one day, we want to have a clinic. We did say it has been our dreams, goals, whatever you want to say, to have a community center. And we've been very open about that. Is the way that we have began to view church over the past several years is really as a community center, a place in the center of the community that can really provide a bunch of needs and help a lot of people in every area of life. Obviously, all culminating with the gospel and the real help, right? And but really reaching people where they are. There's so many needs in our neighborhood and things like that. I don't know. You almost feel guilty in it, not helping that, and instead investing in just making our church like cooler. And I'm not criticizing anyone else, but I'm just talking about the way that we felt. Things that maybe are wants but not needs in the church. But then you think about the needs of the people that come to your church or the people that are in your neighborhood that need that love of Jesus, that need, helping hand or a boost or training, whatever the case may be. And so we kind of started going that route in our ministry and developing things around that idea and around that concept. And so, we bought property some years ago, and the idea was to do community projects going forward in the future. And that's when we started a community garden on those lots, on the lots that we bought, on the two lots, they're neighboring lots that we bought. So it's one big lot essentially. And we wanted to do community projects on those lots. And so we started with the community garden. That was the first step towards what we were, trying to build towards. And, it's a big deal to build something and to staff it and to, and so we weren't there yet. We definitely weren't there yet, but the property was available, and we, first step is having a place to do stuff. And so anyways, community garden was awesome. And the idea behind that really was, first of all, when we first moved to Trinidad, a lot of people would say like about different stuff. It's like, oh, you could say like tomatoes. Someone told me that tomatoes don't grow here. Like, it's just ridiculous claims like that. And so initially, like, I started growing stuff to show people like, hey, you can grow stuff, it's not impossible. Like, I know your uncle or your grandmother or whatever told you that, but it's not necessarily true, And so I started that, but then you started seeing a need. Like, there were some kids in our neighborhood that were malnourished, and their hair was like blonde, like color, and which is not here. That's not a normal, natural thing that's in the gene pool. And so it's like a dirty blonde color that comes from malnourishment. And we just got this like kind of thinking and talking and realizing that people don't eat vegetables and stuff like that in our neighborhood. So we wanted to kind of do a project to promote that. But then the pandemic stuff hit, and I mean, we were taking food to people's houses, and they were like, "We didn't know what we were going to eat today. We didn't eat yesterday, or whatever." And we were taking like flour and like basics: flour, sugar, oil, tea. I can't remember what else. It's just like little basic necessities, right? And people were crying like, and it just made me realize like, I'm not like a prepper. Like I'm not, by no means am I that. But equally, especially in the conditions that we sometimes some places are in here in terms of access and things like that and dependency on um, when things shut down there just was no food, and so that really pushed the garden project forward to like, man, what if we started a thing to teach people how to garden and grow their own food? What if we started a thing to teach people how to be self-sustainable in that way? um, First of all, you save a ton of money. Two, you learn a skill. Like this is a sorry, motorcycle. I told you. But this is a great survival skill. And two, like I mean, God forbid it happen again, but if there's something else happens, a pandemic or something else, like here there's blockades and there's all kinds of things that can stop you really from getting, like there's nothing should be able to stop you from eating. And so, what if we make this a ministry to show, to connect with people and show? So that's kind of the goal of that and where we kind of went with that and started building towards that. And then we hired Carlos to take it on. But Carlos is not a gardener or whatever, or agronomist, whatever, by trade. So we're in a learning process now. And for us too, it's not like we know we want to learn a lot of stuff. And so we took the first year and we're in like a learning process. And we gave a bunch of food away, but really just learning what we can produce well and a high quality, and how much we need to produce to actually help people and not be wasting a bunch either. Because I don't know, it can be until you have a reputation, it can kind of be hard to find people to give food to. Like it's a weird thing to say, but it can kind of be hard. But anyway, so we want to like build relationships while we're producing these things and become kind of initially a source of food, but long term a source of knowledge and information of how to grow food. And so really want to promote people to grow their own food and provide for themselves that way. It doesn't have to be 100% of your, but at least to survive, to be able to survive. And you can do it in very small spaces. And so we're doing all kinds of projects and experiments of experimenting with different small spaces and things like that, to where anybody can do it. And so we want to teach anybody to do it. And eventually, long term, we want to be a source of kind of information, a source of seeds and plants to be able to pass out and give to people so they can grow their own stuff. Or they can come and say, I'm having this problem. What do I need to do or whatever? And the idea, the dream, I guess, is a community of just like gardening where people are just producing stuff and trading stuff and, whatever, or sharing stuff, whatever. We'll see if we get there. But that's the practical goal of that. But the ultimate goal is to build these relationships and we can cross those bridges that we build with people with the gospel. And so, anyways, that was our first step towards community center stuff. And so, going well so far, honestly, overall. Obviously, there's always challenges, but it's going well. And we have a music program. I'm not sure if you know about that. We teach different kids how to play. I did a video about that on YouTube a while back, so I'm not going to go too into detail about that here. Um, there's just a bunch of stuff like that. There's a program we have now that is there's some kids that don't go to school, haven't gone to school in a few years, and so it's helping them get up to date so they can get back in school. Because the problem is once you miss a year or two of school, it's hard to get back in because you're behind. You're so far behind, so you can't really get back in. And so we have a program that Simon is leading now to help kids, get back on their path to going back to school, so they can get back in the right grade and all that different types of things. That's a really neat tool and really big necessity. But anyways, all the programs that we have, all the stuff that we do, there's a bunch of little stuff. But anyways, we all do that in a clinic, a local clinic that there. This clinic was started by missionaries like maybe 20 years ago around there. And but long story short, they're all gone and they've all moved on. And the clinic has been run by people that are locally that worked at the clinic. One of the challenges was, and I wasn't here when that transition happened, so I don't, I'm not going to get too involved in saying stuff that I don't know about. But ultimately, I was turned over, and the direction and leadership apparently here didn't feel prepared, and so that brought on its own challenges and struggles and trying to figure things out going forward. and so on and so forth. And so, I mean, I think it's been maybe 8, 10 years since the missionaries who started left. I don't remember the dates, to be honest with you, but it's been quite some time. And so the clinic has kind of moved along, and the idea was that it kind of grab its own vision and, or the people that ran it now, that not depend on the missionaries, or like they can take it and run with it. And that happened to a certain point, but then also it just, I don't know. There's different things. People move on in their life, and there was a girl that was the administrator, and she did a great job. She moved on to do something else in life, which is completely fine. This is 8 years ago. She moved on, and they hired another administrator. And I mean, I'm not doing this podcast to bury or attack anybody, but at that point, it's just a big change. And as a person who wasn't aware of the original vision, and this person also, and I don't want to sound whatever if you're not a believer in Christ, but like, it doesn't mean you're less than, but he wasn't a believer. And what I mean by that, I don't mean he wasn't capable. I mean, he just doesn't have the same core values and understanding of why this place exists and the necessity for it going forward. And so, but it was all good for the first few years. And then, over time, things, when they get away from their vision, then it tends to, that's why vision is so important. We talk about it all the time and everything, and with church and things like that, is because if you don't have a clear vision, and not just not having one, but if people that are part of your organization don't understand what the vision is, then it tends to start straying away from its purpose. And when it strays away from its purpose, it's not going to see the success that it needs to see. And so, um, over the years, there's some different challenges and things like that. And in more recent years, there's been just flat out irresponsibility, and things were negligence, things were neglected, and it was a mess. And so, anyways, this past year, the board of the clinic said, "Hey, we're realizing we're in some deep issues. We really don't know what we're going to do. Uh, we're thinking about shutting it down because what else are you going to do?" And the president of the board, who is Rudy's father, it was Miguel. You've seen him in videos, maybe if you watch our videos and stuff like that. He was like, is there anything, I don't know, you guys can help or whatever? Because Rudy had kind of said, like, or whatever we can do to help, we'll do that, because we want this place to exist. We know how many thousands of people are helped on a practical level through this clinic on a yearly basis, on an annual basis. Thousands and thousands of people. We're talking low cost surgeries and all, and I'll get into all that in a minute. But anyways, he asked, can we help? And so we said, yeah, we can probably help with something. And just kind of, all right, let us have access to the numbers and stuff and kind of see what the reality of this is, because it may be just time to be like, oh, let's move on, and kind of shut it down, which was a sad thought, but there's a time for that as well, especially if it gets to a certain point. And we looked at everything and kind of did our own analyzing the situation and checking it out, and really just realized that there was this gross negligence, and there was no, and then on a more philosophical level, there was no vision to move the thing forward. And everybody, like, so we did interviews with all the employees and volunteers, everybody, and so just realized that really no one was on the same page. And it was not a Christian environment. By Christian environment, I don't mean just everybody's praying as they walk around. I mean, like, just representing the fruit of the spirit. Like, there was none of that at all. And it was a cesspool, to be honest with you, on some levels. And so I want to focus more talking about going forward, but I think those of you who are interested in this who are listening to this and are willing to listen to this podcast, I want to also give you details of so we made some recommendations to the board, and the board obviously agreed to some changes and uh, implemented some of these changes, and told the people that need to make the changes to make the changes. Anyways, some of the changes were just refused to make, and it was kind of a mess. And you know that turned into a whole thing. Anyways, then we did an audit. We realized that they hadn't had an audit in 8 years, and so we did an internal audit. And the rules here for government is a little bit different than there, but we did an internal audit, and it just revealed some things that just weren't good. There was some missing money and just a bunch of mess. And unfortunately, all that culminated in the dismissal of the current, or the at the time, the current administration. Um, and so at that point, we're just helping them. We're just trying to help this place continue their mission, and because, again, not just for them, but for the people in our community, because we work it's right across the street from where our house was there, or is there. It's right. I mean, our church is on the second story in that building because they built a part specifically to have a church in there. So it's a very connected ministry to us, and but we are reaching the same community, and so we understood the necessity of a project like that, or a mission, like, or what is it, a ministry, or whatever you want to call it, like that, in that community. It's super necessary and vital. And so that's why we wanted to help, really, is for it to continue, the work to continue. And so anyways, they dismissed the administrator, and they asked us to take over administration as an organization, to take over administration. Now, one thing that we've talked about a lot is we refer to as the clinic, but the clinic is really just the biggest part of it, the most, really, honestly, at the moment, it is the most effective part. I don't like comparing things, but it is the most effective part. It just has the biggest reach, and it's the most consistent, and things like that. So they asked us to take over. But it's actually not a clinic. It is a nonprofit with a clinic. So the nonprofit actually consists of, there's a football program, like a futsal, or I think is what it's called. Most people probably won't know what that is, but it's like when you play soccer on like a basketball court size, like a hard floor, like a basketball court, basically. And so we have a program with that for kids. It's meant to be an outreach to connect with kids, and help kids in different situations to develop their skills, obviously, but also discipleship, a discipleship tool of getting involved in young people's lives that are there in the community, and so on and so forth. And so they have teams, and they compete in different leagues and stuff like that. And so there's that, and there's also like a homework help program that is, it's not quite after school care. It's meant to be after school care, but it's not quite that. It's, again, there's not a lot of vision floating around, there wasn't at this time. And so that, and then there's also a arts and crafts program, like a women's arts and crafts program. And this is it's for anybody, I guess, but mostly it's older women that go to this program, and that's led by a volunteer, actually. And so they have these programs as well, that are part of the nonprofit. So it's a nonprofit, and it is called Fundación Totai, which means Totai Foundation Totai, however you want to say it. Totai is the fruit of like one of the of a type of palm tree. For example, I don't know what it's called in English, honestly, but it's like a little thing that a palm tree grows. And anyways, they built the building, there was these types of palm trees, and it had this fruit, and so that it makes sense in Spanish. But yeah, anyway, so they asked us to take it over, and we kind of talked about it and had internal conversations, because we realized this is going to be a big undertaking for us, a huge undertaking, and possibly, I was definitely ministry changing, but possibly life changing for us as individuals as well. And so, long story short, we said yes. That's why we're here today. And so, it's a big deal. And I think, I've said that already and talked about it, but it is a very big deal. And it is something, I think I said this in the original video too, but, I feel like I have a vivid imagination. And so anytime before, like, we do anything, whether you hear about it or not, like, I think about any possible scenario. I try to think about everything, like, just let my imagination run wild. And I mean, a lot of the scenarios are a bit ridiculous, but at least I thought about it, right? But one thing, like, as vivid as my imagination is, one thing I could not uh, ever imagine was that we would be administering, running, or that place would be under our ministry. That just was never, because, like, at some point it's covetous, right? Like, where you're looking at another you're looking at another entity and, like, oh, I wish we ran that, like, I don't know, I just don't, I don't naturally think like that, thank God. So that it was not something on my radar, so it was really a surprise. I mean, it was a process. It wasn't like we woke up on a Monday and they just asked out of the blue. But there was a process and conversations leading up to that. But it was a surprise nonetheless. And so we said yeah, and so we actually we started we were involved. We've been involved really since July, and this is when we were doing like suggestions and things like that. But we became way more hands on in November, December, around the end of the year, and then we officially stepped in, recognized by the workers and all that, like presented the beginning of January, the first week of January. Um, there are some challenges because I have a whiteboard back here behind me that I write down like just different things that I want to see every day, good, bad, or ugly, things that need to be confronted. And like there's debts, like there was silly debts taken out. I don't, I'm not gonna get into why because I really don't even know why, to be honest with you. But for like $1,000 from like an individual, like I don't know, like things that you just don't do. But like $1,000 here, $1,000 there, another $1,000 here. Then there was some workers that there's a thing here called indemnization. We don't really have it, I don't think, in the states, but it's a thing like if you quit a job or if you get fired, then if you worked more than 2 years, I believe is what it is, then you are owed. Let's say you worked 8 years or 5 years. Don't want to seem like I'm beating a dead horse there. Let's say you worked 5 years, and so you're owed 5 months salary on top of when you quit or when you're fired. And so let's say you get paid $200 a month. It's the easy number. You work 5 years, you're owed $1,000 when you quit. And so there's some people that quit last year or 2 years ago actually, and so they were owed this money that was being paid, and it wasn't being paid. Essentially, long story short, it wasn't being paid on time, and so we owed some of that. We owed the electric company like several months worth of. I mean, it's a lot, I mean, it's a lot for us, and so you know, we took over, and we have it again. When we took over, we didn't. That's why it took me so long to even talk about it to you guys, is because I didn't know, and honestly, I still am not fully sure. I didn't know if like is this going to survive even a week? Like, are we going to come to the conclusion in a week from now that like, oh, this is it? We need to shut this thing down because this is not going to happen. That was a possibility. It was a real possibility, and it is a possibility, but it's not as strong. And so we decided to organize ourselves. Rudy's on the ground there, and doing the day to day stuff, and yeah, we we confront all the issues together and kind of put our mind together. And a lot of stuff we just don't understand why it is the way it is or why it was the way it was, but we confront it. And so there's an uphill battle. We have paid off. I mean, I think we've paid off 4 of the debts already, and there was maybe let me look back. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were 9 debts, and I think we've paid off. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them, and we'll probably pay another one off here in the next few weeks or next couple of weeks or whatever. So we're halfway to paying these debts off, and then one of them I think we're going to negotiate our way out of it. We owe it to a doctor that did surgeries there, and for some reason they didn't pay him the money when he did the surgeries, and so it turned into debt, and then you spend the money, and just poor habits. But so yeah, we've paid off a bunch of those, and yeah, we still got ways to go. We still have, I mean, I think we still have several $1,000s of debts to pay off. Typically, I probably won't ever talk about numbers and stuff like that again, but I just want to be transparent and want you to understand kind of where we're at, and what we're facing, and what we're looking at there. And so yeah, we have several $1,000s of debt worth paying off, which is it doesn't sound like a ton for a clinic or whatever, but to keep in mind, this is a low cost healthcare clinic, and this is really what I want to kind of highlight, and this is why it's so important. Are there other clinics in Trinidad? Yes, there's several other clinics in Trinidad. Public healthcare is an absolute joke. Let me just like public hospitals and stuff like that. If you got to go, you got to go, and you can get attention, but it's not something to be taken seriously. It's one of those deals where some of the hospitals is like you go in with a hangnail and you leave with AIDS. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but maybe not. So private healthcare is for you. It's going to sound cheap, but again, take into account that the average person in our neighborhood, for sure, possibly in the whole city, makes less than $200 a month, right? So a consultation fee with a cardiologist at other places is going to cost you 300 Bs, which is what is it? 45 ish, around that, 42 to $46, something around $45 a month. Let's say call 45. $45, not a month, $45 for the consultation fee. So I know you're thinking that's cheaper than my copay or whatever, but again, you make a lot more than $200 a month. So that's a quarter of your income that you have to pay for the consultation. We're not talking about tests. We're not talking about any of that type of stuff. Just for the consultation, a quarter of your income. For us, it's $15 a month. The same cardiologist. We have a cardiologist, I think, 2 days a week. We have a urologist, I think, 2 days a week. We have two ENT doctors now. So we have ENT actually things every day. We have two dentists, or an orthodontist and a dentist. I can't remember what else. We have a pediatrician, a dermatologist. We just got a new dermatologist. The other one moved away. We have a lot of stuff, but they're not like everything every day. It's like offsetting. So like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, will be like dermatologist, for example. And so if you want to see a dermatologist, those are the 2 days, and it's only for a few hours. So you get your, because they're not going to work there all day, because they go make their money in their regular practice. And so we have general medicine, or family doctor, I guess is what we would call it. We have quite a bit of things, and we have, again, if you didn't see the videos, we have two operating rooms. Is that what they're called? Yeah, OR operating rooms. One is operational, the other one is not. We don't have the equipment and things like that, but we have, the space or whatever, and it's made for that. We don't have it. So we actually do low-cost surgeries. For example, there was a guy who goes to our church. He's a young guy. He studies in another city now. He had to have an ENT surgery. That's the main surgeries that we do. He had to have an ENT surgery, and he's living in Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz is going to be like $4,000. Again, I know what you're thinking, but keep in mind how much money the average person here makes. And he's a student, so he makes no money technically, And so $4,000 is a lot of money here. Again, take into account that's what I was trying to say earlier. I couldn't think of the phrase take into account, but take into account $200 a month, 200, times 12 is you're making, what, $2,400. So it's more than you make in a year. A lot of the average person, not everybody makes, some people make way more than that, whatever, but the average person, it's more than what you make in a year. So it's a very expensive surgery. So it'll be, if you make $50,000 a year, it'll be 65 or whatever, something like that. It's more than you make in a year. So how are you going to pay for that? Anyways, he had the surgery. We had a surgical campaign, low cost surgery. A doctor from La Paz came down, and people from different clinics and hospitals all over the world. Really, we've had doctors from Venezuela, from Korea, South Korea. Necessary to specify that. South Korea. We are from different cities here in Bolivia as well. They'll come and they'll do surgical campaigns. There's a guy from Texas. I can't remember the band, but he was the ENT. For a famous band. I just can't remember who it was. But he would come down once a year and do a week-long campaign, And we do a pre-qualifier thing for these surgeries, and people qualify. So anyways, long story short, his surgery costs about $750 as compared to, which is still, it's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than $4,000. And so the idea is to make accessible healthcare, and make healthcare accessible, private healthcare specifically, accessible to people who just don't have access to that otherwise. And so it's a great, I don't think I can exaggerate how much of an impactful tool this is and can be. It's a big deal. It is a very big deal. And so anyways, that's what it is, and that's what we do. And there's different dermatology, like outpatient surgery. We don't have to do heart surgery. We don't have that type of facility where we can do heart surgeries and things like that. We don't have that, but we have where you can do minor to mid ENT surgeries. You can do dermatologist stuff. There's a urologist that wants to do some surgeries there. Again, it's more of the less intensive stuff, because more intensive stuff requires a hospital stay and certain machines, and we don't have that, and we really don't have the facilities for long-term stays and stuff like that either. But still, these are things. Some of these surgeries, although they're simple surgeries, they are things that can change your life. There's people that have hearing issues and they get that fixed. And so, things you couldn't get a job at a certain place before, now you can. And you couldn't get a license before for something, now you can. So on and so. There's just a lot of things that can be done, or that change because of these surgeries, and because of the attention in general that we're able to give. And so, the place it's a big deal, and it's necessity. But the low cost part is what keeps us from not from being profitable. But you just don't make as much money as you would if we charge what everybody else charged. Well, then it kind of defeats the purpose of us existing. We don't really have a reason to exist at that point. We're just competing with the other clinics at that point. And so I don't know. That's not the idea. And so yeah, could we get out of this hole by charging higher price? Absolutely. But if we charge higher prices, well, I mean, it defeats the purpose of our existence. And so, we're at this whole place, and we actually have some donors that donate. There is a fundraising branch that is in the UK. It's more specifically in Scotland, and they raise funds and they give a lot of it. They specify it for the community projects, and then the rest of it goes to the clinic. So we're at about 10% funding now of our operating costs, of our current operating costs. We're at 10% of that. That's how much is funded by sponsors. We really want to get to about 30%. I think that's a good number that gives us a cushion to be able to help more people, right? And it gives us a cushion to be able to grow too, because we do charge for the consultations. Obviously, we have. I mean, shoot, it would be great to be 100% funded. You can just give out free everything to everybody, but that's not a realistic thing, I don't think. And so, if we got the 30% funding, it will put us in a situation where we could grow a lot more and we could do a lot more stuff. But we're not there. But we have some good news. Is just the numbers. For example, this is our first full month. January was our first full month officially, dare I say, in charge, right? Last year, we brought in more our first month running the clinic, and this is not including donations or anything like that. But we brought in more money our first month running the clinic than January 20. I'm trying to say it clearly. January 2024, we brought in more than January, February, and March 2023 combined. So we're off to a hot start. We're off to a great start. We also the highest income. It's weird to talk about incomes and stuff when you're talking about a ministry and a service and things. It's not about money, but you need these things to get out of debt, and you need these things to survive and for the clinic to continue. So the highest income month they had last year of the whole year of 2023, it was in July, and we our first month we brought in 33% more than the highest month all year of last year, and that was the highest month by far. And so we're off to a good start. Is it sustainable? We would like to believe so, but we'll see. And so 1 month is not enough time to have real numbers and real expectations. However, it is a great start to start off in our January making more than or bringing in more. And the word is not sales, but like impatience and whatever, bringing in more than the previous year in the first 3 months, was almost a quarter. And so, yeah, it's a good start. It is a good start there. So we're off and running second month, but we've been really moving, man, just trying to make agreements with different organizations and things like that in the area as well. For example, there is a military school in Trinidad, and this is like a sergeant academy or school or whatever. We made an agreement with them because we have ENT stuff. We have I can't remember what it's called, in speech therapist, but also it goes like deeper than that to gives you like in the booth, checks your sound and phone knowledge. I can't remember what it's called. But we have that as well, and she's full time actually. And so we made an agreement with that academy to send all their students to us because they have to get their hearing checked and things like that. So they send all their students to us to be checked for that stuff, and which that helps us out a good bit. Also, we are right now in negotiations, which it is hard to negotiate with government entities here, at least. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but here It's complex and frustrating. Um, but we're in negotiations with them right now, so you can be praying for this. That we have the same agreement essentially with them for all their airport employees in our whole department. Our department is Benny, which is a state essentially, the equivalent of that. And so all the airports there, they would send their workers to us to get their hearing checked and things like that, and all these different checks that are required of them, like their health checkups or whatever, I guess. And so that would be a big boost for us as well. Um, yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a huge tool. We just want to help more people. In the clinic side, it is a developing story. So we'll see, how it goes the next 2 months. I think that'll give us more of an idea of, okay, what does this look like financially going forward? What are the needs, and how much more of that debt that we get paid down? I don't personally feel comfortable raising money for this type of thing now, or even hitting it like hard like that. Because in the future we will. We want to raise money. We want more people to support this. But it's weird. Like, hey, can you give us $1,000 off for what? So we can pay off Jimbo that somebody borrowed money from on the corner that would never should have happened. And so I don't know, it's the whole thing. But anyways, I want to really focus on getting those things knocked out so we can kind of move forward with the clinic going forward, and again get back to focusing not on paying off debts, but to helping people and how we can serve our community, neighborhood, city, and really country even better. Because, and I say country, we don't want to open more clinics, but if you think about it, a plane ticket round trip to Trinidad from Tarija, where I am now, to Trinidad is the most expensive flight in the country here, and it's about $200 round trip. It's not cheap. I know it's cheap for you, but again, take into account, the income differences here. It's not cheap at all, and typically it's like $100 or less for a round trip somewhere here in Bolivia. So it's like double basically. But even at that, remember I told you the surgery in Santa Cruz cost like $4,000 more or less, and we did it for 750. I mean, so if you live in even in the most expensive place to fly from, you can also take a bus, but it's like a 2 or 3 day trip. Um, but even if you flew from here, you still save thousands of dollars. You pay 750 for the surgery, and you pay 200 more or less for the ticket, for your round trip ticket. It's still saving over $3,000. So that's why I say for the country as well. So this is a big deal. This is something that we want to continue, obviously, and we want to be able to reach more people going forward. Again, we're off to a bang. It doesn't feel like a bang because all the not there's not much extra money, but all the money that it's gone before because we got to pay off these things or whatever. And some of these debts have been around for years. FYI, like one of the debts or two, all of the debts actually, the ones that accrue interest, they're like personal weird loan. I don't know. It's like loan sharks to me, honestly, if I'm being honest. You have 10% interest, and it's a monthly interest, and so all we were doing is paying the interest, and basically these eternal debts. And obviously we've paid off. Those are the first ones that we paid off because they accrue interest. And so, anyways, uh, just taking steps towards building that, and again, so we can get back to helping people and reaching the community around us. That's the clinic side, really, in a nutshell. And I don't know if you're listening to this and you have questions, shoot me a message. My email, you can text me. I don't care. I'm Facebook, Instagram, DM, email me rgore84@gmail.com or redrootsinc@gmail.com, or I don't know my number. I would give my number, but it's like kind of weird to. Anyways, reach out. Anyway, if you have any questions about that, but I really wanted to take time to explain to you what it is. Great news. It's awesome news, but it's also, you know, uh, there's challenges there. It's not like, oh, we took over a clinic, yeah, move full forward. It's not that simple. It's a big deal. There's a lot to overcome, but I think that we can overcome it. Again, if we get over this first hump of the first quarter, if we get to the first quarter, okay, then we'll be good to go going forward. I think. Again, there's always going to be challenges, but overall, the challenges that we're currently facing, I think those will go by the wayside. We have begun essentially consolidating all of our programs under one thing. So there's the after school care program, which we're actually kind of changing that, or the homework program, we're changing that. Because to be honest with you, it wasn't effective. The football program wasn't effective as far as the evangelistically effective. There was no discipleship focus or anything like that going on for years. And so we're in the process of re-changing that side of it as well. And we're actually calling that side the academy. So we'll have clinic, Totai Clinic and Totai Academy. I'm trying to say it in English, but it's like, anyways. So Totai Academy and Totai Clinic. So academy side will be arts and crafts class. It'll be the homework helper, put kids up to date in their schoolwork thing, the music program. We have like a library thing. I don't know if you saw that video a while back. We're kind of putting a library thing together for a study place, like free internet cafe type thing. People can come do homework, things like that. We also want to expand the programming there and be able to do a bunch of different stuff for, anyways. I have a long list of things. We would eventually like to do a photography class, teaching people different skills and different things that maybe they never even thought about or had access to. We also want to do like money management courses and things like that, which will be a little more short term, and it'll be like every two times a year maybe we would do this course and get people in the neighborhood to sign up, because you can make a little bit of money and you can make a lot of money. It's not always this black and white, but a lot of issues comes down to money management. A lot of issues, not all issues. Poverty is real, and the effects of poverty are definitely real. But sometimes there are issues of money management. Anyway, so just giving tools to people so they can grow and be able to build with that. And so we're kind of rebuilding those programs. We're doing some courses now. On Mondays, we have our team all going through courses of a organization called or a Christian Community Development Association. And they have some really, really amazing courses, actually. They're really, really amazing. And what it really does is it doesn't just throw Bible verses at you and say, hey, love people. It gives you like kind of a purpose to your program. It gives you a purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing. It just helps with the overall direction. So it's been great so far. We've done 2 weeks of that. It's been really great, great conversations and understanding revelation, whatever you want to call it. It's come through that. And through the different leaders of the program, different leaders and volunteers of different programs have, hopefully the light is turned on, because things were just kind of chaotic, to be honest, before, and hopefully they won't be chaotic in a year from now, because we can mess up too. We're capable of that, but the goal is for it not to be a conscious goal and effort for it not to be. And so we want those programs to kind of come alongside as a parallel to the clinic to be able to help people in different areas and be able to offer different things to the community. Community garden also will is fall kind of under that department as well, the academy. And again, we want the community garden to be able to teach people how to garden, and eventually want to do courses in gardening, how to grow different things, how to produce different things, how to fight different like plant sicknesses and things like that are in our area. How to, plant a garden. Like there's so many courses that you can do on gardening. And again, these are things you can do once or twice a year, have this course, sign up, come, whatever. And so, seed saving. Oh, there's a ton of courses that we could do through that. And so there's a lot of ideas on the horizon, and there's a lot of room for growth in this program going forward. And we hope it realizes its full potential. But this is a long-term project. Obviously, this is not something that just comes and goes. It'll be. There's a lot there. There's a lot there, and so we again. I don't know if I mentioned we have the building belongs to the nonprofit. So, and now that we run the nonprofit, the building it's under our direction, so to speak, and so we have space to grow. We're building the futsal program. They would go down further into the neighborhood, like actually in the next neighborhood over, and they would use like the football. It's not field. I don't know what you would call it with futsal, but the basketball courts or whatever. They would use it there, and so we're kind of like now, like we have the space next to our clinic. Why do we not have our own? We could bring people into our, and so we're in the process of putting. We put the dirt down, but it's a kind of a long process when you don't have $1 million. It doesn't really cost that much, but we don't have the money to put into that right away. Again, everything is kind of focused more towards getting out of the hole that we're in now, and then we can. But we got some donations specifically for that, and so we've been able to put the dirt in for that, and put the football goals or the soccer goals. Look, we call it football here, and so I get confused. But the soccer goals up and things like that. So space for that to grow, and there's a lot of things that we can do, and because the idea initially was for the clinic to be connected to the church, not be under the church or the church be under it, but be very connected. And over the years, that kind of fell by the wayside, and kind of want to rebuild that connection, and have our church come alongside the clinic, or the clinic come alongside our church, and be partners in really reaching and helping the community. And so yeah, that's really the idea of all that. It is. I don't know. I'm super excited. I get stressed about it sometimes, if I'm being honest. It's a lot, and then coming and going and traveling and things like that. I don't know. You got a baby at home, and there's a lot to all of it. So you can just keep us in your prayers, and yeah, we would greatly appreciate your prayers. But it is a very exciting time, a very unexpected time. Again, a year ago from now, had you asked, had you told us even that this was going to happen, like, it just didn't make any sense. We're not clinic people. I'm not a doctor, or I don't have a hospital administration background, which is funny, by the way, because when it was first mentioned, was first brought up that we managed the clinic, obviously there were some people that were, they like us, but they just didn't think we were capable. And so essentially it was brought up that we were unqualified. And it was a big meeting. And we were talking about everything. It was because we're on the General Assembly as well. So we're on like the highest board, whatever. And so it was during that meeting that was brought up that we would be. And so, people had questions, and rightfully so. But one of the things is somebody, said, and they weren't trying to be nasty, but essentially saying like that we're unqualified. And, I just simply asked, was the guy that runs it now, is he qualified? And obviously there was silence. And, so there was some hesitance. It's kind of weird though. We all do that in life. I'm not accusing anybody. We all do that in life, I think. Is like you get yourself in a rut, and then you get help, and you start doubting the help. Well, but you're already in the rut, like, And so, but anyways, all the doubt has been, I don't know the word, has dissipated. All the doubt has dissipated after the first month, and seeing the numbers. It's a bigger month than the entire. More, we just compared to last year, but it's really been way more than over years. It's been the biggest month in years, and but for us, we're not like, oh yeah, that means like, I don't know. It's not a real. It's a real number. It's a good start, like I said earlier, but it is it's a starting point for us. Like, we're not like, oh, we, what was it, 33% more than the. Well, we're not into that. We're not. That's not even our focus right now. It's a good month. We want to build on that month going forward, and we want to eliminate these debts so that we can really build something that lasts longer than us, and just have a robust and deep impact in our community, and that's really the goal. So, yeah, this has been 47 minutes of me kind of rambling on about this, but I did want to make this podcast and just kind of talk more in detail, because I wasn't going to make the initial video like this and all that. And I wasn't going to talk about it because most people aren't going to watch this. It's 48 minutes. It'll be 50 minutes by the time I'm done. Most people aren't going to watch this or listen to this or whatever. So I wanted to make it kind of a separate video. But for the people who are really, really interested, they can watch this, check it out, and hear more details about it, and kind of see what we're up against, know how to pray for us, know how to support us, and kind of know what to expect, going forward or whatever with that, and kind of know where we are. Like, again, 3 months may not have a clinic. It looks like we will, but you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's pretty much all I got to share. I'm sure I forgot something. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I apologize if you're watching me in this video, if the video actually worked. Apologize for my posture and things. I'm kind of like laid back, relaxing, and just kind of thinking and reflecting about all this stuff. But I'm not really worried about the video quality and stuff like that right now. More or less, I want to get you this information and have just an open and candid conversation with you about the excitement of the clinic, but also the reality of what we're facing going forward. And it is a lot. It's a bear. It's a smaller bear than what it was a couple months ago, but it is a bear nonetheless. And so I just keep us in prayer that doors keep opening, and that we can make the right connections to different organizations. To like we were talking about, those different government entities, the airport workers, all that stuff. We can make more of that. That we can make more connections with more doctors and more, to come and do surgical campaigns for the week and help more people, so on and so forth. We just want to kind of rebuild or build a network of people all over the world that can help out, and that we can really help people going forward. So that includes, prayer, people praying. That includes financial supporters. That includes doctors and surgeons and so on and so forth. That includes teams coming down. Oh man, this is one extra thing I want. Like, I don't know if you saw in the video, but I almost didn't want to show it, to be honest with you. Like it just needs some attention. Like the walls are dirty. It needs paint. The lighting is bad. It's just a sad and like a depressing lighting. The offices, the curtains in the offices are not curtains at all. It's like a cut sheet and just like things like that. The small things that do make a difference. And so what we want to do actually coming up is we want to, when we get a chance, when we get a little bit of money to do it, we want to focus on one of the rooms, the consultation rooms or whatever, offices or whatever. I can't think of the word. Sorry. And kind of make it the model for what we want the rest to be. We're not talking about like high class, whatever. Just make it look nice and presentable and make it feel warm and a good work environment, but also a good environment for a patient to come into. And kind of repeat that through all the different rooms and things like that. So yeah, you can be praying for us, or if you got a team or something you want to bring down, man, reach out. You're not going to be on a stage. I'll just tell you straight up. If you bring a team here, you're not going to be on a stage in front of 50,000 people. That's just not. That's not the focus of our ministry, and we're not going to make it like it is just because you're here. If you bring a team here, we want you to focus on things that we are actually doing, and not going to make you pay $2,500, $3,000, whatever it costs. I don't know, for a trip to come down and try to impress you with something. We want you to be a part of the impact, not impressing, but the impact that we're currently making and helping us out with different projects and stuff. So reach out if you have a team. Or if you want to come as an individual, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Reach out. We're trying to do everything. We're trying to build this up and trying to get this thing running and help a ton of people and really show the love of Jesus to the people that are, that haven't experienced that maybe in the ways that we are capable of sharing that now. So this is exciting news. It's a good thing. We're very excited. We are very excited. Again, there's some details that we need to work out going forward, obviously with the work, but also on the personal side, there's some details that we need to work out in our own lives. So figuring out what does this all look like going forward for us as a team, us as a family, but us as a team as well for everybody. And so it's changed a lot. Simon was supposed to go home this year to raise money and stuff. That trip has been because he must stay in all hands, on deck. So, I've said this about 50 times, but keep us in your prayers, really. We need it, and we appreciate it. Thanks for all your love and support. Thank you for all you do for us. And thanks for listening to this podcast. It really means a lot, not just that you listen to me talk, but that you are interested in what God is doing here through us. And really, really cool stuff. Really exciting. So I'll kind of keep this going. I'm going to get back to the podcast. I need to get my equipment stuff figured out, but I want to do these updates kind of more, and they'll be shorter, in the future, and do kind of a programmed thing or whatever. It might go live too, so we can talk about this live maybe in a week or so after you guys have listened to the podcast. Those of you who will listen, and we can talk about stuff that way. I don't know. It's a good idea. I think we might do that. Anyways, thanks for all your love and support, and until next time, Provecho.